Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're going to be starting a new series of Cold Waters, the third-person submarine simulation game that puts you in charge of an American submarine of various classes in any of three different campaigns, either from the 1960s to the 1980s, to a near-past hypothetical war with China in the year 2000. This is sort of my second, actually, I guess technically my third attempt at the South China Seas campaign, which is what the campaign we're going to be playing, 2000 campaign, the most modern campaign, the one that just came out a couple of weeks ago, actually a couple of days ago officially. And in this campaign, in this series, I hope to make it all the way through the campaign to show you what the end game looks like. So if you're not familiar with both of the 1960 and 1980 campaign, they are World War III gone hot, and both of those campaigns end with a mission to sink Russian boomer submarines prior to them breaking out into the Arctic, where they can launch their nuclear missiles on the United States. And essentially, you can either sink them and win the war, or you can fail to sink them and results in a draw of a war. Obviously, you can lose also by being overrun, but as sort of the end game, if you make it to that final mission, it's either win the game or draw the war, which is essentially a de facto loss. A nuclear stalemate, if you will. I don't know if the China campaign is the same. It'd be kind of interesting because China only, at this time, I think they only had one, maybe two SSBNs, so you don't have the same sort of submarine nuclear threat. But the war is very different, too. It's not a World War III. It's a local conflict in the sort of South China Sea area over islands and whatnot, but it's not a China taking over all of Europe situation. So I'm not sure if the war ends any differently. Maybe it's a political strike on China's leadership. I'm not sure. I haven't looked online to see what others have done, what others have played, because I wanted to keep it as fresh as possible. It does seem like a little bit of a longer campaign as well. That could be reflective of the fact that you're fighting in the Pacific rather than the Atlantic, and it takes longer to get between places. I'm not sure. But whatever it is, we're going to be playing the China campaign 2000, and we're going to be trying to make it all the way through the war. Our submarine skipper will be known as Bart Mancuso Jr. Yes, that's a reference to Bart Mancuso, the character in the Tom Clancy novels. Our last campaign, we had Bart Mancuso. He was killed, so presumably his son is taking up the torch and continuing the family's long legacy of submarine commands. So we're going to go ahead and start. And now we've got to decide which submarine we want to play with. So if I'm trying to make it all the way through the campaign, the safe bet would probably be the Seawolf. It's the most modern of the submarines, the deepest diving, the fastest, the most torpedo tubes. The one thing I don't like about it, and the quietest, the one thing I don't like about it is that it doesn't have vertical launch tubes. So the Los Angeles class has the benefit, the Flight 2 and 3 have the benefit of having 12 vertical launch tubes, which you can launch Tomahawks or really Tomahawk missiles, either anti-ship or anti-land targets, out of these hatches. And these hatches don't take up weapons space in your torpedo room, and they also don't prevent you from having 4 torpedoes in your tubes while you're launching 12 missiles on a ripple fire. Now, the flip side of that is that the Seawolf class has twice as many torpedo tubes as the Los Angeles class. It has 8 tubes versus the 4 of the Los Angeles class, and it also has a much larger weapons bay. It has some 50 weapons that it can carry, whereas the Los Angeles is like 28 or something like that, maybe 34. If you include the 12 vertical launches, then it gets up into the mid-40s. But in any event, the Seawolf can carry more weapons than the Los Angeles. I think we will start off with the Seawolf, if only because it does have the quietest submarine in-game and gives us the most advanced sensors. It's the most survivable of the submarines, and it can dive dramatically deeper at 1,600 feet than even the latest of the Los Angeles class, which can only make it down to 950 feet. Actually, interestingly enough, the Sturgeon class, which is the oldest class of submarines that you can play as in this campaign, is the second deepest diving, but it only can support up to 2 wire torpedoes. These were sort of the backbone of the fleet in the 1960s and 70s. These are obsolete by the time the 2000 campaign rolls around. And given that a lot of our missions are going to take place in the shallow waters of the Pacific, sort of in near the Chinese coast, I'm going to go with the Seawolf because I think the stealth aspect of the Seawolf is going to be more useful then perhaps the slightly deeper diving Sturgeon, not deeper than the Seawolf, but deeper than the Los Angeles, and also, frankly, the Sturgeon's slower and louder than any of the other two options as well. So we're going to go with the Seawolf class nuclear attack submarine. It is the Cold War warrior, the ultimate, the Uber weapon of the United States, the Wunder weapon of the United States in terms of submarines. Only a handful of these were ever built because they were so expensive, but these things were supposed to be the elite of the elite submarines that were designed to wipe out the Soviet submarine fleet. And only a few came into service, and eventually they were the project was basically scrapped or slowed down or limited in scope because the Cold War ended and the cost of these things just wasn't worth it, and the Navy switched to a more multi-purpose boat in the Virginia class, which is very tremendous in its own right. So we'll go with the Seawolf to start. All right, so you can see here from Com Sub Pack, Commander Bart Mancuso Jr., Sync Pack Fleet, new command assignment. Effective immediately, you are hereby assigned command of Seawolf Class Submarine USS Seawolf SSN 21. Congratulations and good luck in your new command. Hey, Elena. The Straits of Crisis. In the year since Li Tenhuai has pronounced Taiwanese independence after a national referendum vote, regional tensions remain on what the hell accent is that? In Eastern Asia, while opposing military forces have demobilized, diplomatic rhetoric has only escalated, with Chinese Communist Party representatives promising to return the renegade province back to the fold. The belligerent tone taken by the PRC over Taiwan has extended to Hong Kong, destabilizing regional relations and leading the UK government to indefinitely delay the planned handover of Hong Kong to China. Anti-Western protests have been a regular sight in mainland cities since. Okay, so Taiwan declares its independence. China says it's going to bring it back into the fold. The British are getting antsy and deciding, nope, we're not going to hand Hong Kong back over to the Chinese. And presumably that's going to have something to do with this conflict starting. The Tiger economy collapses. The economic crisis that started with the collapse of Thai baht in the spring has become a global financial contagion, showing no signs of abating. International authorities have been unable to develop an effective response due to escalating tensions between China and the US, which has allowed the crisis to continue unabated. The Russians have been particularly hard hit, with hyperinflation taking hold and the ruble's value on the international markets being wiped out. Desperate for foreign capital, the government has sold large amounts of military equipment to the Chinese, including advanced submarines along with Russian crews as military advisors. Everything but that last part, I guess, was happening in the late 90s, early 2000s. China on the offensive. China has launched a series of attacks along its periphery, placing recent sabotage against U.S. military installations in a new light. Tensions have remained high since Taiwan's independence and Hong Kong failed handover, likely resulting in the PRC deciding that the time is ripe to resolve these issues and force their territorial claims in the South China Sea. Furthermore, analysts have noted that in recent months, the Chinese economy may finally be feeling the effects of the Asian economic crisis. Capturing resource-rich areas in the South China Sea may be an effort to divert domestic attention away from the stark situation. Okay, intelligence indicates that enemy commandos will land from submarine in the vicinity of Scarborough Shoal within the next week. You are ordered to intercept them before they land. Primary objective, locate and sink enemy submarines transporting the Chinese commandos. Secondary objective, sink any escorting submarines if possible. Step 4, avoid detection by enemy anti-submarine warfare patrols. Weapons free. ECOM, maintain radio silence until otherwise directed. Alright, it is October 11th of 2000, 1500 hours. USS Seawolf is docked at Guam, and we are ready for sea. I'm not going to make any changes to our armament or anything like that. We're just going to go with what we have to avoid taking too long. We've got a ways to sail to get over to Scarborough Shoal, hopefully before the Chinese submarines arrive with their special forces. Hey, Charcoal. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Cast off and anchors away, my lads, anchors away. All right, that's all the singing for now. And our submarine is making good time across the the Pacific Ocean, moving through the Philippine Sea. And then once we make it through the Strait of Luzon, we will swing south to Scarborough Shoal, where we will take up a blocking position to hopefully block any Chinese submarines that may be trying to make it there to drop off commando forces. Okay, so we're in position. We have not spotted any Chinese naval assets yet. Our recon aircraft flying up here in the north have spotted nothing. And we're still sitting here around Scarborough Shoals. Oh, there we go. We've got some submarines moving south. These definitely appear to be the ones. We just had an overflight of an enemy anti-submarine aircraft. Hopefully that's not what's after us. We're moving very slowly, so we're moving at 10 knots. Slow, but sure. We can see the enemy's, let's see here, bearing 274, so I need to remember that. I tend to forget when I'm playing these things that I need to keep an eye on where the actual bearing is, because you pretty much never come into these things with an actual contact. 1 second, I need to grab a writing utensil. Thanks, Jack. A streamer smart enough to write things down. Well, I've learned long and hard, especially with sort of the tutelage of Neuhauser, who helped put this campaign together, I believe, that I look like an idiot when I sail around not able to find the enemy, because I didn't realize the game tells me the actual direction that at least one of the contacts is going to be facing. Bearing 274 designates Sierra 1. All hands man your battle stations. Brig ship for ultra quiet. I just think it's weird that you lose contact at the start of every battle. That seems weird to me. Okay. Well, there she is. You can see here we've got 8 torpedo tubes, and they're all loaded with torpedoes. I know that sounds like, oh, duh, torpedo tube loaded with torpedoes, but, you know, when you think about it, you've got harpoons, tomahawks, other things like that, noisemakers. Then I've got to scroll through all these potential contacts. Here, about half of these are going to end up being merchants. That one definitely looks like it.
Is classified as merchant.
Kind of looks like it could be this, but I highly doubt it's actually an LST. I don't believe this is an LST. I don't believe for a second. One of these is going to be something, I assume. But I guess we just have to kind of wait and see what we can figure out. We'll use time compression here.
Sonar lost contact. Sierra 2, last bearing 319. Contact faded.
Alright, so this one's probably a merchant ship because it's... Yeah. Alright, we can see this one. This is definitely a merchant ship, which I have no desire to sink, and we actually wouldn't want to sink it. Look! It's a good old American merchant. You're probably not in the safest place to be transiting your goods, but the good old stars and stripes on board this merchant, we shouldn't sink it, right? Alright. So... The interesting thing is that is definitely the bearing of the contact that was reported at the start of the battle. Shoot first, ask questions later. I suppose that is one tactic. Alright, come on, guys. Give us a better solution on this, whatever this is. I don't believe for a second that it's this thing. Gotta be a sub, right? That's what we saw coming in, unless we were triggered into combat by the air unit that was flying overhead.
Con sonar lost contact.
Damn it!
Sierra 2, last bearing 332. Contact faded.
Alright, well we lost contact, then we regained it. I guess just wait. Looks like the solution's going up if I just kind of keep sailing this direction. Of course, there could be something else. We could duck below the layer. There does appear to be a layer at 275, or 277. So if there are submarines in the area, it might actually be something that we won't be able to hear unless we duck below the layer. Turn a little bit. Actually, the general direction...
Sonar Sierra 2 is classified as merchant.
So it is a neutral. Alright, well let's get below the layer then. Let's see what we can see. There's gotta be something.
Passing 300 feet.
There's gotta be something, right? They wouldn't trigger us into battle if there was no enemy.
Con sonar switching to active search.
Alright, I thought I saw a sonar contact off here to the left. Multiple sonar contacts.
Con sonar switching to passive search.
So now that we just gave our position away, I do think there were two contacts out this way.
Con torpedo room tube 5 ready. Shoot tube 5.
We're gonna shoot a Moss decoy. See if we pick anything up.
Con sonar new contact bearing 240. Designated Sierra 3.
Con sonar contact. There we go.
Con torpedo room tube 5 ready. Con sonar
Could be a Ming.
Sierra 3 is classified as submerged
It
submarine.
looks kind of like a Ming. Getting a little bit fainter now. Hey, Newhauser.
Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 3, last bearing 240. Contact faded.
Don't jinx me over there, Jack. He just hid. You're like, oh, he'll never hide. Well, there he goes. Alright, I need to turn back. I probably lost him because I turned too directly on the nose to him. I want to get a little bit of an angle so my towed sonar ray can kind of drag behind me and pick him up. Also, I think turning a little bit away is also a good idea, because if they fire down the bearing of the noisemaker, then we can just kind of charge off the other direction. Is the Ming's sonar so shitty that it still thinks that
Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 1.
it
last
can't
bearing
detect our noisemaker?
1, 2.
That the issue?
Faded. Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 2. Last bearing 016. Contact faded.
What's our fire control on this guy? Jumping all over the place. The Ming, the Yugo of a submarine. Alright. Fire control.
Sonar new contact bearing 236. Designated Sierra 4.
See, here's the thing, is with this guy so close in, I think if I fire a noisemaker, he'll hear it. Still 12 kilometers out. Maybe he's not that close.
Shoot tube 5.
In any event, I'll shoot it on a bearing that's different than the one I'm coming down. So I'm using a lot of noisemakers early here.
Shoot tube 6.
We're also going to shoot a Mark 48 at the actual target. I assume this Sierra 4 is another... not a Ming, something similar.
Con sonar, launch transient from Sierra 3. Make turns for 10 knots, maneuvering I. Con maneuvering, making turns for 10 knots. Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 4, last bearing 250. Contact faded.
Alright, so there's active sonar in the water. Hard to tell if it's going for me. Oh, I'm turning the wrong way. It's hard to tell if it's going for me or if it's going for my decoy. I'll speed up a little bit. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to hear me or not.
Making turns for 15 knots.
Just that guy. Alright, it looks like it's on a convergence for the decoy. Which I hope by the time it gets to me, it'll be well behind me. I can accelerate a little bit more if I need to. You can definitely see the active sonar pings going back and forth. I didn't get a good angle for the decoy, so it may well go past the decoy and go for me. He definitely fired on the noisemaker, that's for sure. Now it's going to sail past and probably come for us.
Make turns for 20.
Trying to get out ahead of this thing so I'm past its search pattern.
Con maneuvering. Make
Shit.
turns for 20.
Sped up too much and lost the wire.
Fire control, weapon countermeasure homing.
Con sonar, noisemaker bearing 296.
Alright. The enemy torpedo seems to be going past me. Don't know if it's turned on its acquisition gear. I am also not certain. Wish I had a plot button in here. Like a button where I could see, like, plot the distance between.
Con sonar lost contact.
Alright, so we got the Ming.
3, last bearing 300. Contact breaking up.
So we got the Ming with our Mark 48. Mark 48 was good and smart. The enemy torpedo looks to be too far in our baffles, too far behind us for it to acquire us, and it doesn't have a submarine guiding it anymore. So it's not going to know to go toward us even if the sub could pick us up. So it's going to do its little pattern out this way, and it's going to go right past us.
Con, torpedo room, tube 6 ready.
We're going to slow to 5 knots.
5 knots, maneuvering I.
We're going to see if we can pick up the Sierra 4 again. Still got this decoy out here. Could have fired down the bearing of S4 when I had a bead on it.
Con sonar regained contact on Sierra 3, bearing 308.
We reestablished contact on a dead enemy submarine. Nice.
Con maneuvering, making turns for 5.
You know what I kind of wish the game would do is it allows subs to go below crush depth and be crushed, but it seems like once the sub's actually sunk, it will go to the bottom of the floor, the ocean floor, and not get crushed. Now, maybe part of that's because the interior of the sub's flooded, so there's no water pressure gonna break the sub up. But I imagine there'd still be pockets of the submarine that that would have air pockets in it and would likely need to be crushed by the sea. I could be wrong. I don't really know a ton about sinking subs. Alright. We know this guy's a bad guy because he had an active sonar ping on us before.
Con sonar, Sierra 4.
It looks like an improved Kilo. Now, if we speed time up again a little bit, do we get a better fix on him? Not really. What if we turn a little bit?
Con sonar, launch
Yeah.
transient
Oh, he's
from
firing.
Sierra 4. Con sonar, launch transient from Sierra 4.
I was gonna say, is he firing on the bad guy? But it actually looks like he's firing on us. Looked like the torpedoes came out targeting the decoy, but now they're swinging back toward us.
Con fire control, we've lost the wire.
How did we lose the wire? We're moving at 5 knots. Wasn't that sharp of an angle to shoot on. Whoa, what the hell are they doing with those torpedoes? Now they're turning back away from us toward the decoy?
Shoot tube 5. Aye, sir.
I really should have loaded more decoys. Right. I think these torpedoes are going to go the other way.
Sierra 4 is cavitating.
Is our torpedo going to home?
Noisemaker bearing 293.
Got it. All right. So we got him. I sped it up a bit. We sank the Kilo. No enemy contacts nearby. I think we probably got everything that's here. We did. We got a Kilo and a Ming. We have 18 ad caps left. We only have one more noisemaker. I think we used them very effectively, but probably lavishly. We probably shouldn't have used quite as many. That may come back to hurt us in the following missions. You can see here that the mission was a success. Excellent performance locating and eliminating enemy submarines transiting Chinese commandos. New orders to be sent on this downlink soon. "600 feet under. The Pentagon today revealed that several Chinese submarines attempted an incursion near the Scarborough Shoal, South China Sea, and were either destroyed or driven off by the coordinated efforts of U.S. naval vessels, submarines, and aircraft. Cooperation between U.S. forces and those of allied nations was cited as pivotal to the outcome of this operation." Bullshit. In fact, it was Bart Mancuso Jr., the superhero submarine captain, single-handedly defeating the Chinese Navy without any assistance from other Allied forces. The loss of so many vessels will certainly curtail the Chinese ability to project power in the region. Allied military installations continue to remain a high priority throughout the theater, as the United States' ability to maintain control of the region is dependent on these bases. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of Cold Waters, our Let's Play the South China Sea expansion, the newest expansion, which brings the game to the South China Sea in a more modern setting, the year 2000. So far, we're off to a good start. We succeeded in our first mission. We've got the most advanced American submarine class, and we saw that last round intelligent use of headings and tactics against enemy submarines, as well as, frankly, having a super stealthy submarine can win great victories. But in our next fight, we'll have a little bit more of a challenging engagement to see how things go. Until then, however, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.